Hey everybody, Justin Weber, ampsandsound, and this is my latest 301, Garrard 301 restoration. I'll walk you guys through it, but this one has made me bleed and cry, and I can't be more pleased with it for an end result. But it definitely was a head scratcher. It took some extra work. So what we have here is an original 301 Series 2 oil bearing. We rebuilt the bearing, we rebuilt all the linkages, got everything up and running, sounded great, checked the tolerance on the motor, and yet the motor ended up being noisy, which happens. In different speeds you could hear more of its implicit background noise, which was super not cool and really painful. So our friends at Classic Turntable in England, we sent the whole unit to them. They rebuilt the motor, and it's absolutely whisper quiet and can't be heard, so it's really wonderful. We worked to build, there are many plates that increase the rigidity of the chassis. What we did on this one, because mine, is that we actually modified the chassis. So we drilled through the chassis in 3 places and created a torsion box effect. So the chassis is actually significantly stiffer because the brace actually bolts to the chassis and makes the chassis more rigid. Some of the other braces that exist only bolt to the actual chassis in one spot, so they're not really making it as rigid as they purport to be. I think that this was an important idea. Though we sell our own brace that has the holes available, you don't have to make use of the holes. As this is my personal unit, I wanted it as stiff and quiet and transparent as I could, and so I modified the chassis. We also have a Classic Turntable Platter. Though I have the original Platter, I love the aesthetic of the original Platter, this is obviously a significant improvement, and we went with it. Classic Turntable also makes a copper mat. We went with the copper mat. Previously, I've used a mat that comes from Japan that actually dampens the ringing effect of the Platter. I haven't really noticed a lot of ringing effect with the upgraded Platter, and I thought the additional mass was worth it. Of course, we went through the whole thing and removed any buildup, re-lubed everything, new pulley, idler, eddy, all of the good stuff. Now, many people would say as good as a good motor is, you have to have a really good arm. I had never seen a 9-inch SME sporting an SPU, and I've really become an SPU convert. And my good friend Russ gave me an SPU that needed to be retipped, so that's a Classic E that needed to be retipped. I sent it out to Groove Tickler, and he retipped it, and it works fantastically. And I had previously had on here a 3009 arm, and I thought it was a great choice, but I really had moved to using moving coil cartridges and wanted to be able to run heavier cartridges, and the 3009 wasn't really set up in that way. So what we have here is a new SME M2 9R, and with its stock weights, we're able to run the SPU without any issue. Even though the SPU is a very heavy cartridge, it's a very fast sound, dynamic, and yet still has that warmth and tonality that you'd expect for the SPUs. A few little tidbits that we did to improve things over our previous iterations. We recessed our hardware. Everything got a little bit more love. There's a little bit extra dampening material that has increased the weight of this table. It's very heavy, even though it's pretty compact for what a 301 would be, and it's very inert, and I appreciate that. We went with just a sort of contemporary finish and veneer so that it was able to be taken to a show and would make sense in almost any aesthetic. So this is, pretty much become our stock Plinth with all the improvements that we've learned from. and I went with this veneer because I thought it was the most wife and life friendly. But that said, I now own two 301s. One is a full all-out big monster chassis with a brand new motor from classic turntable and a M2 12R, and now this is a resto mod with an original 301 and an M2 9R, both running classic 2Es. It's become my sound and I really appreciate it. New versus restored. Everybody asks me, given that they're so close in parts composition, do they sound different? And they really do. I could do a whole video about the differences between the two, but it's interesting, that all of our choices create the personality of our sound. And this is just another great example of that. Hope you guys play some records and enjoy some good music.